Good afternoon and welcome to the United States Institute of Peace. I want to thank you all for your patience as we're starting a little bit late, but you're in for a very interesting conversation, so thank you for joining us here today. My name is Tamanna Salikuddin and I direct our South Asia programs here at USIP, and we have a particular treat today where we will be, instead of talking about the geopolitics and who said what, today we're going to use the lens of art to explore conflicts and challenges in South Asia. And I'm very honored to have on stage with me here today some very interesting and very important people in the field of conflict resolution. We have Dr. Akbar Ahmed, who is the author of the play that we will be discussing today, Gandhi and Jinnah Return Home, a play in 3 acts, and Manjula Kumar, who is directing the play, and we have 3 of the actors who will be playing critical roles in the play. And I will introduce everybody. They have storied backgrounds. I do want to share with you who's on stage. But before we get into it, I want to talk about why are we talking about a play today here at USIP. Gandhi and Jinnah Return Home is a play that offers new insights into the lives and legacies of 2 of the most important figures in modern South Asian history. It examines these historical figures, but it also takes historical fact and mixes it with creative imagination. And as we look at South Asia, a region that's riddled with various conflicts and more than a fourth of the world's population, there are many, many different attempts at peace. The post-colonial conflict that really continues to plague the subcontinent is the one between nuclear armed states of India and Pakistan. And while we may not see much in the way of progress among diplomats or generals for that matter, the citizens of India and Pakistan and the diasporas of these 2 countries have found a multitude of ways to connect with one another. And this play, Gandhi and Jinnah Return Home, follows in that rich South Asian tradition of using plays, poetry, and stories to both critique and comment on social issues and conflict. Gandhi and Jinnah Return Home, and a play in 3 acts, will open live at American University for audiences this weekend. We hope you go check it out. And I will turn now to each of my panelists with some opening questions to better understand the play and to see why is it that we are looking to art to try to resolve some of the most pressing issues and conflicts in South Asia. We will also have a chance to take questions from the audience, so I thank you all for joining us here today. I want to start, of course, with Dr. Ahmed. Congratulations on this impactful new work. It is quite an achievement. You have written many plays. For all of you, you know Ambassador Dr. Ahmed is a distinguished professor with the Ibn Khaldun Chair of Islamic Studies at American University and a Wilson Center Global Fellow in Washington, D.C. He was Pakistan's High Commissioner to the UK and Ireland, and his career has included distinguished posts in both academia and public service. He's won the Star of Pakistan Award, the inaugural Gandhi Peace Award, and along with Professor Judea Pearl, the inaugural Purpose Prize. But he has also published, I think this is your 3rd play. Yes. Third play, and 3rd time I think we're going to turn to Manjula as well. But I want to start, Dr. Ahmed. The premise of this play is that the founders of modern India and Pakistan, Mahatma Gandhi, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, these larger-than-life characters, personalities, they come back to visit India and Pakistan 75 years later, right? We use our imagination to see what it would be like if they visit now. And they find a host of problems in both countries. And they also work through their own personal issues in your play. The play is an interesting blend of historical fact and creative imagination. I want to start off, what inspired you to write this play now? And what message do you seek to convey with your commentary via the play?
Thank you, Tamanna, first of all, for hosting us and organizing this and for that excellent introduction. The answer to your question is, as a South Asian who loves the culture, the history of South Asia, and by which I include all of South Asia, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, a very, very rich culture, I was dismayed to see some of the trends where divisions are being created and so much misunderstanding exists. And I felt that somehow the 2 figures who, more than anyone else, represent the essential soul of one nation, Jinnah for Pakistan, Gandhi for India, Mahatma Gandhi, Qaid-e-Azam. If somehow these two symbolically could meet in a play, in a poem, in something I could write, that would make my little contribution to this situation. Now, you know, the playwright, the poet, Tamanna has somewhat of an ego and believes that maybe what they do will have some impact somewhere. So then I talked to my dear friend Manjula Kumar, who's also a guru of mine and a sister of mine. We've done 3 plays together. And I said, Manjula, is it possible to stage this? And then the challenge was, how do you stage it? Because an author writes something on paper, but then it's up to the cast, the writers, the director to give life to those characters. And I must say I'm very, very moved, and in fact overwhelmed to see what they've done with the play. So my purpose was solved, that is to put forward a plea, a pleading for peace. Because I'm a grandfather, I have children, I have grandchildren, and I want to see them living in peace and enjoying the richness of that culture which is South Asia, and not seeing it heading straight into a cul-de-sac. Maybe I'm pessimistic, but that's how I see it, and I believe in my entire service, I've always believed in doing something, being an activist, and to me, this was the way I could best express my emotions through this play. And finally, I also felt that historically, if you could raise this what-if question, the counterfactual question in history, what if Mahatma Gandhi had not been shot? What if Mr. Jinnah had lived another couple of years? How would history have been very different? It's a question worth pondering. And finally, of course, the fact that unfortunately in India, Mr. Jinnah is portrayed very often distorted in a way that you can't recognize him. And in Pakistan, it's the other way around for Mahatma Gandhi. And that really saddens me, because as you said, these are giants. And giants must be put in proper perspective. We must take pride in them and we must own them. They belong to all of us. So these were some of the very ambitious aims for the project, and I can now only pass it on to Manjula because she has to carry the ball and run with it. Thank you.
I'm going to turn to you, Manjula, next. Manjula Kumar is well known in the DC community. She's an educator, director, actor, activist with a strong belief in the arts as a vehicle for advocating social change and promoting peace and harmony in the world. And through her numerous productions, she has worked tirelessly to build bridges of cross-cultural understanding between diverse communities. She's worked for over 30 years at the Smithsonian Institution and produced a variety of programs to express her unique desire to foster cultural cohesion. Manjula, I'm very excited. She's both producing and directing this play.
Trying.
Well, break a leg.
Still an effort.
Yes. You write about this play. Dr. Ahmed conveys his strong belief in interfaith practices through his message of peace and hope. As the director of this masterpiece play, my endeavor is to educate, enlighten, and engage a multicultural, multi-religious, multilingual, intergenerational audience. So, I mean, that's quite a broad and I think lofty ambition. I'd like to hear your journey with the play. How has it been bringing it to stage? And then how do you think this will impact both communities in South Asia, but diaspora communities who may be not so clear on this history and are seeing some of these characters for the first time?
Right. Thank you, Tamanna. And thank you to USIP. I can't believe I'm actually here. I've attended many programs, and as we were driving and coming in, I said, this is the ideal place to do this kind of a discussion coming off of the play. And I just want to start with what came to mind this morning, Mahatma Gandhi's quote, which is very appropriate. Here, peace is the most powerful weapon of mankind. So weapon and peace. So I'm absolutely thrilled. As far as the play, I first read the play 3 years ago. Then we had to deal with COVID and then some personal problems. But anybody who's come to rehearsals or heard about this production, we could not have timed it better to promote and spread the message of peace. What are we facing right now from morning till evening? What are we looking at? So it had to be done. The spreading of the message of peace is forever and ever. The timing of it, but also the challenges. So here we are. The moment you mentioned the title, Gandhi and Jinnah return home, oh really? What's it about? So the two names. So I go around saying, oh, the two iconic men in my life, but there's a third one here also, but there's another one, Churchill, who's over here. So while we start from the historical perspective of partition, taking it, to modern day and a future. So we're talking past, present, and the future. So at times when we've mentioned about Gandhi, and so many films have been made on Gandhi, so many books have been written, plays. I've myself done a couple of plays, but the uniqueness of this play is that it starts from a historical background, and then we visit Karachi and Gujarat in India, but there's this promise of hope, which is so important. And when you talk about enlighten, educate, that's what I'm talking about. We have Akbar Ahmed's grandson here somewhere, isn't that right?
Alexander, stand up.
Hello. So this, hey, where else can we start? The first and most important aspect of doing this play is starting from all of us. We need to revisit, we need to become more. I have learned so much in these past years. I thought I knew some of the things, but it's bringing awareness, more sensitivity, and more, But the challenges, here I had the script on paper, but to take it onto the stage is a challenge, but very exciting. And I'm thrilled to have an exceptional cast that's working round the clock. So one important thing of the play is it's totally original. We have an original script. We're trying to put everything, the collage that you see over there is done by our artistic director. The music you were listening to has been composed by one of our cast members. So everything, the costuming, the music, the artwork. So that itself has been very creative, very exciting. And Gandhiji's message, unity in diversity. So in our cast, we have Christians, Sikh, Hindus, Muslims, and Jewish. And here we are in Washington, D.C., all coming together, all chiming in, learning. We're learning so much. The person who's playing Churchill has been reading and looking up The Crown and, getting his British accent. So a lot of work, a lot of challenge. And education, I think, to me, as an arts activist, education is the most important. That's what I've been doing, I think, all my life. But it's education about the arts and through the arts. And that's what I feel drama, brings all the elements together of poetry and music and literature, all of it, to convey, in this case, a very important message. And that message, we all keep hearing, of peace and harmony, but today, more than anything else. And again, why drama? We may get up in the morning and look at those horrendous things from Palestine or before it was, but it's alone. Right? We may go to bed at night, look at these images and get terribly disturbed. But what the Greeks quite very appropriately shared with us is catharsis. They practiced it then, we really need it today. And drama, and just as that we are in a conversation today, is therapy. Is an exchange. So you're not sitting in isolation reading a newspaper or watching the news. We are all together. And it's an experiential thing that I think is most important, especially in this play.
Thank you so much, Manjula. That's very inspiring. I want to turn to our artists with us, our actors. I think it's great that you have embodied these historic characters, and I want to hear from each of you. First, I'm going to turn to Shri. Shri Mirajkar is an active left-brained creative. He's a seasoned award-winning actor, writer, and director with passion for theater, filmmaking, and storytelling. By day, he's president of an IT consulting firm, but he's also launched new ventures in environmental and sustainability space. He is playing Mahatma Gandhi in Gandhi and Jinnah Return Home. And I know that is quite a challenge for a person who is known not just in South Asia, but across the world, right? And in this day and age, there's quite a bit of criticism of him. He's become more controversial even in India. I want to explore with you, how was it, embodying him on stage? What do you look forward to? What did you learn? But also how, as part of the diaspora from South Asia, how has this connected you to your personal story being part of this play? Over to you, Shri.
Thank you so much, and thanks to USIP for having us over here. I think we're talking about something that is extremely important, and playing Gandhi, of course, what gave it away, but it's a very, very iconic role for me as an actor. I think this is a dream come true for any actor to play such a what can I say about Gandhiji, right? I think a lot of us revere, and we would love to live by his principles, which is extremely important at a time at today, what is going on in the world. So for me, as an actor, certainly a challenge. I ended up losing a little bit of weight and preparing for this role, I think, and that's the only way to have done it. But the play by itself and the dialogue that happens between Jinnah, between Gandhi, between Winston Churchill, three extremely, extremely important and giants in themselves, and what they did for their own countries. I think that by itself is so important, and where history, teaches us so much. And without that knowledge, without that education, for us to move forward today, and to find our path, I think it's extremely important. This play is extremely important. Dr. Ahmed has done full justice to bringing some very, very important issues to the forefront. And also, obviously now for us to perform on stage under the able direction of Manjula is quite not only a challenge, but I think it's been an extremely, extremely satisfying process, and we're excited. We would hope for all of you guys to come and support us and watch us and see the play, and hopefully take away a message of peace and harmony and love. So,
thanks very much, Shri. I want to turn to you, Farhan. Farhan Baba is president and CEO of Pescara Consulting, offering modern analytic solutions. So he's, currently pursuing AI-based driven solutions. So I think this play is a little bit of a departure from your day job, but you are also an avid polo player, and you enjoy participating in creative arts, including filmmaking and theater. He is playing Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, in this play. Jinnah is maybe a lesser known figure to a U.S. public than maybe Mahatma Gandhi, but not, in the freedom, post-colonial reality of the subcontinent, as an important figure, especially for Pakistan's history. Can you talk a little bit about what went into building for you the character of Jinnah, and how was that experience? What did you learn from the experience?
Thank you, Tamanna. And USIP for giving us this platform to talk about this. First of all, playing Jinnah means the world to me. It's a great honor for me to be interpreting such an enormously heroic figure in history. And as you know, Jinnah he had to struggle against the greatest political odds at the time in India. That is the British Empire, the then Congress Party of India, to create a nation state, to create a state that that became, at the time, the largest Muslim nation on earth. So the partition of India is a very, the independence and the subsequent partition into two countries is a very controversial controversial event in history. To date, it's highly debated. So for me, in order to do justice to this play, to this character in particular, I had to really embark on a journey to educate myself about what it meant to Jinnah, what India meant to Jinnah, what Muslims meant to Jinnah, and eventually what Pakistan meant to Jinnah. And being one of the most successful lawyers of his time, both in India and Britain, it just really intrigued me as to what it meant to him to migrate from his indulgence into Savile Row suits and a luxurious lifestyle to really adopting a life with a cause that really culminated into creating a new nation state. So I had to study accounts of his life to understand what was going on with him, what was going on at the time of partition, his various political positions in his life. And in particular, I mean, I could go on and on, but in particular, what he thought about political representation of minorities, for example, his post-partition speeches about how he really, stressed upon upholding the secular values. So all of that, it's really interesting. I think it has really enriched me. I think it's transformed me already. I feel like I have a more enlightened view on minorities' rights, on human rights, and especially the secular values that we keep talking about, what's going on in the world, around the world these days for decades, and how it's also becoming a challenge in the subcontinent, to be honest, to uphold those secular values. So when the opportunity came to me, so my wife was like, you have to do this, you cannot give this up, and you must perform. So so the decision came in a heartbeat. So for me, it really, to be playing Jinnah is critical in my life right now. I think for me, it is like playing a very tiny, or being a very tiny part of the history that I think continues to shape the future South Asia region.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I'd like to turn to Soumya Kinney. Dr. Soumya Kinney is a public health researcher with a focus on health equity and how it impacts public health and research outcomes, especially among underserved communities. She's equally passionate about all aspects of music, from its creation to performance to production, and she's a budding pianist, singer, and most recently has become interested in composing, recording, and mixing. Her introduction to creative arts came from her grandmother, a vocalist and musician herself, and has been immersed in Indian classical music, theater, dance, and literature. And Soumya, you play the Indian activist, it's an imaginary character, Meena Kumari in Gandhi and Jinnah Return Home. And I think you have a very interesting, you're not a historical character. You actually, I think, represent us. You are a modern, critical observer of what's going on. And I think it's great. You're almost, you're the outside observer, you're the conscious of the play. So I'd love to hear, as we're exploring all of these different problems, I mean, the play touches on so many issues in modern day India and Pakistan, whether it's gender, religious minorities, casteism, pluralism, so many different things. How did you deal with all of these? And, you yourself are part of the diaspora coming from South India. How was it that this experience changed and affected you?
Oh, that's a great question, and thank you, Tamanna, for asking that. And I'm going to say one thing. I have Gandhi on one side and Jinnah on the other, promoting peace at the U.S. Peace Institute. How, it can't get any better than that. So thank you all for coming and showing an interest in the work that we're putting. We've really been working hard. It's the final week, and would love to see some of you at the play, and hopefully you'll enjoy and also take home with you the message of peace that this play is trying to promote. So to answer your question, I think, yes, I play a more current woman, the woman of today. My name is Meena Kumari, and I did ask Dr. Ahmed, why Meena Kumari? What was the reason for that name? And he said, she was a very iconic film actress from the 70s, and apparently that's his favorite film actress. And so he decided to name this character Meena Kumari. But there is a surprise element about that name as well that's explored in the play. So would love to have you find that out. And so what does it mean for me to be playing Meena Kumari, the woman of today? I play a journalist from New Delhi. She's very strong, outspoken, and a very vocal, fact-driven woman. And I think, as Tamanna mentioned, my grandmother was a big inspiration for me, who, in the 30s and 40s, was the first woman in our family to get a high school education, which was really important at that time. And she pursued a career in music. She taught music to provide for her family, didn't let any of these other societal norms kind of question her passion and her interests. So likewise, I was the first woman in my family to come here to the US as a student, as a 21-year-old, and pursue my education. So I'm happy to emulate these characteristics that Meena Kumari shows in the play, as a strong woman, as a passionate woman, as a fact-driven woman. And also, I play a journalist and an activist, and I did some research about journalists in India, the journalism's, how it is, happening today as we speak, because I wanted to be more current in how I understand the world as we see today, especially in India. And this friend of mine worked as one of the top journalists in the 1990s, 2000s timeframe, and she had some really interesting experiences to share. One of the things I remember her saying is during training, she was taught the journalist's ethical code, which are two things. One is being unbiased, and second is being non-affiliated, which is not having any political or religious aspects to your own being, which might bias or which might convolute your fact reporting abilities. So I feel really honored to actually exemplify these specific two qualities as a journalist in this play, which represents the journalist's ethical code, which I feel is in question in India currently. We are in a very interesting situation, and what this play explores is it starts with the partition time frame where political and religious aspects were key, and the play also explores the current contemporary situation where I feel that the same two aspects, political and religious aspects, are at play as well. So this play really beautifully brings those two aspects together, and that's what makes me excited about this play and being able to play Meena Kumari.
Thank you so much, Soumya.
Can I make a comment here?
Yes, please, Dr. Ahmed.
I wanted to make a brief comment. Dr. Soumya has very beautifully encapsulated her role. In fact, that is one of my most favorite roles, because I've created it with a lot of nuance, a lot of colors within the role. So we know Jinnah, we know Gandhi, there's not much scope that I can do. Everyone knows who they are and everyone knows where they stand. But it is Meena Kumari who is amorphous, because she's representing the conscience of South Asia. And you see the dilemmas. She's courageous, but she's under a lot of pressure. Will she give in? Will she make a stand? How much of a stand must she make? How much of tradition must she preserve in order to move forward? All those nuances, because we have, Tamanna, a very strong emphasis in attempting to correct the imbalance in South Asian history as far as gender is concerned. You'll notice from our history that it's often seen as the history of Jinnah and Gandhi, and that's it. So in our play, you'll see a very strong role for the women in the play. I mean, obviously, we can't give them as much place as we can to the men, but we have a very strong role for Kasturba, Gandhi's wife, and Fatima Jinnah. They have very strong roles, and they make their presence very much felt. But the purpose eventually is not only to entertain art for art's sake, but also to educate. Because as Manjula said, very few people know about these characters, even of our generation. And there's a new generation growing up, the diaspora, who really know very, very little. So the more we talk, and I have wonderful American students at American University, and they know very little about South Asia. South Asia is sort of blank. So, it's further east, China-US rivalry, or Ukraine, or now the Middle East, but South Asia gets dropped in a hole. So it's important to understand, as I said, the complexity, the history, the culture of that part of the world. And that comes through this particular play, because at the end of the play, we'll have these two gigantic characters, and both are giants in their own way, titans. Both of them, the arc begins right in the beginning where they are in conflict from their history, where history fades away, 47, 48, when they leave us on this planet. But by the end of the play, they come together. They come together in a very warm and emotional manner. And Manjula, being the great director, she's moved that scene to such a point that there'll be many tears in the audience, because they'll see something very symbolic there. I hope I'm not giving away your end.
No, you're good. Can I just add quickly one point to the gender perspective? So again, it couldn't be more timely, the whole question about journalists in that part of the world, and especially female journalists, because there's been a lot of news as to how some have been killed and this and that. So it's very timely to address that. But what is very important aspect is how Dr. Ahmed has first shown us in 1947 the power, the strength of women like Kasturba Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's wife, and Fatima Jinnah, Jinnah's sister. So that was 1947. And then we come to the present day of that, the differences, and we end with, we might say, we'll be with you. No, we've added, we will lead the way. So that's a futuristic women's issue over there. But there is, as we were having a discussion in one of our rehearsals, also the cultural. So we cannot say, oh, but in the United States, women do this for women's empowerment. You have to understand the cultural aspect of it. So it's a very important aspect that will be something quite new in the play. People are coming with the historical and, that. So I'm excited.
That's great. I want to build on this. The play highlights many issues. So gender, you've mentioned. You always also talk about religious identity, coexistence, pluralism, democracy, religious fanaticism.
Gandhi's favorite halwa.
Yeah, Gandhi's favorite halwa is also in there. But Dr. Ahmed, I want to draw you out. You have been a professor for many years. You've been a diplomat. You've seen how hard these issues are. Not only were they difficult at 47, 48, but they continue to be drivers of conflict in both India and Pakistan, across South Asia to be, when I visit all of the countries of South Asia, we see these as drivers of internal conflict. And so what are the lessons that your play is trying to impart to a new generation, to people in the region? And do you see hope to overcome any of these?
Tamanna, I do see hope, because I am by nature an optimist, a positive person. In spite of the misery around us, sometimes maybe I'm not quite normal, but that's how I see the world. And that's what's kept me going, because otherwise, if you begin to add up 2 + 2 and it comes to 4, you're really in trouble, because the world is in a bad shape. I'm inspired by the famous Jewish shibboleth, Tikkun Olam, to heal a fractured world. And that's also in Islam, that if there's a problem, if people are hurting, try to help. And I think that in South Asia, it is really time to go back to the greats. And that's why I go back to Jinnah and Gandhi, because they are, if you start from them, then you can begin the process of healing. You can't do it on your own. There's so many politicians who've come and gone, and they will continue to come and go. But these are the two permanent features in both these countries. And they can, understanding them and understanding life and society through them and through what they wanted, what they really wanted. And I did a very deep study. As you know, I made films, made documentaries, I wrote books on both of them. Both of them have so much to give to us today. It's very, very moving, and I feel very, very privileged to be from South Asia. When you read Mahatma Gandhi, you're amazed at his warmth, his humanity, his philosophy, and his great sense of humor. And the way they work together in terms of sense of humor. Mm-hmm. You know, when one meets the other, Gandhi meets Jinnah and says, "You have mesmerized the Muslims." And Jinnah replies, "You have hypnotized the Hindus." Now, this kind of boyish alliteration. Yeah. You don't imagine any other politician doing that sort of, using that sort of language. But yet they had that spirit that they were live and they were interacting almost as a kind of sparring, using each other as sparring partners. So I have a lot of hope that if people understand the problems and understand the solutions through these great historic figures that we have, I think we can move. I think Gandhi is someone that Pakistanis should really know about. We know very little in Pakistan, very often as a stereotype. Similarly with Jinnah in India, that will help majorities to understand the minority better and therefore ease their own societies. Because right now societies in both countries are heading into a cul-de-sac. They have no solutions. You can't just continue to hit people or break people or kill people and say, this is going to be a solution. It's never worked in history.
Professor Ahmed, if I may draw you out a little bit on the denuclearization, I found this very interesting. By the end of the play, both Gandhi and Jinnah believe that both countries should move towards denuclearization. Now, this is a conversation that is not happening in reality in either country.
It isn't happening, Tamanna, and don't announce it too early or I'll get in trouble.
But I mean,
the fear
yes.
that's been expressed.
But you see, again, as a playwright, I had to be ruthlessly honest and put myself in the shoes, or in Gandhi's case, sandals. What would he be thinking? What would Mahatma be thinking about the nuclear program? And forget whatever about Hindu chauvinism, etc. He would be concerned about humanity. What would Jinnah be thinking? Again, he would be concerned about humanity. Jinnah would never say, use a nuclear bomb and kill so many Hindus or kill so many Sikhs, because they were his people. He felt, and so did Gandhi, that these are my people. They wanted a separate country. Ultimately, it didn't work out. And the aim was not to create two enemies for eternity. All the actions are, Gandhi's action, we have it in the play. This is a fact that he had agreed to come to Pakistan 3 months of the year. 9 months in India, 3 months in Pakistan. And Jinnah had, in turn, reached out and offered him a state visit. So he would be treated as a head of state, as a gesture of respect. So that was the kind of attitude they had to each other. It wasn't that we are going to be enemies and we'd start killing each other and shooting at each other. As far as nuclear is concerned, I am convinced the humanism of these two, the humanity of these two would have demanded that for South Asia, keep it clean, because at some stage, some lunatic in the future may press a button and kill millions of people who may be Hindu or Muslim or Sikh, but they will be our people. And when you kill our people, we all lose something.
It's exceptional. I want to turn actually to talk to both Shri and Farhan for a second. A lot of the play focuses on religious intolerance. And with 1/4 of human population lives in South Asia, they are often hostage to the hatred from the time of independence, right? The play really gets into it that, once Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs were neighbors, sometimes they quarreled, sometimes they shared their lives. Today, it seems they can't even talk to each other without accusations and abuse. I found that a very powerful line in the play. And both of you, Gandhi in India follows the story of minority persecution, and Jinnah in Pakistan goes and sees minority persecution. And so I want to ask each of you, how did you tackle that? It is a very touchy topic in today's day and age, but also what is the message, obviously, that you wanted to portray? So why don't we start with you, Shri?
Yeah, I think it is kind of sad where we are in terms of religious intolerance, using violence to either assert your own message, your own narrative, or the historical scars, I think, that each side bears sometimes, inflicting more violence on each other will never heal those scars. And I think it is time for both countries to look at it with, a completely new way of how two neighbors can coexist. And going back to what Dr. Ahmed had also put about neutralization completely and getting rid of the nuclear weapons and things like that. I think it's an idealist view, but I think it is something that both countries can and must work towards to at least have some semblance of peace in that area, because at the end of the day, it's the people who end up suffering. It's the people who, and again, every time that I've met with any of my Pakistani friends, any of my other friends, it's like, hey, we have the same language, we wear the same clothes, we look the same, everything's the same. It's one bloody line that got drawn between these two countries and made these two countries, India and Pakistan. And so I think it is time to look at it differently, to say, is there an alternative? And I think that is what this play presents. I think that's what Dr. Ahmed has brought forth as a solution, to say, yes, there are differences, Hindus, Muslims, but you don't have to always be fighting. You don't have to always be going back in the past. It's time to bury the hatchet in some ways, find a solution that unites the people of both India and Pakistan, unites both Hindus and Muslims, for that matter. And Gandhi, for that one, he had that one message, which was humanity, which was working for the minorities, including the untouchables, Harijans, in terms of all the Muslims, Christians, any of the minorities. But I think he would be very, very sad to see what is going on in the world today, where we are. And hopefully his message resonates with a few who can change the world. So change starts with one. And he was one who started that. Hopefully the momentum can keep going.
Thank you, Shri. I appreciate that. Farhan.
Yeah, no, I would totally mirror what Shri has said, for sure. And I also want to mention that I'm not a professional actor. I have a lot of other things going on in life, especially, paying the bills and stuff. So for me, this really is, I really do this out of morality. And that relates to your question, because it's this is the time to really start thinking about where the two countries are today versus what the vision or the visions of both Jinnah and Gandhi were at the time. And if I talk a bit more about the Pakistani side, I think to me it's vividly clear as to what the vision, as to what Jinnah's vision was when he created Pakistan, because all we have is the speeches that he delivered after the partition, right? And it was very clear that he wanted a modern secular state. He minced no words in stating that in his speeches, and very clearly he mentioned how he wanted, how he told his people that you are free to go to your temples, to your mosques, to your churches, and practice your faith. So, unfortunately, I don't see a lot of tolerance being upheld today. More so in the subcontinent. We have India versus Pakistan issues, but we also have internal issues. I think all of those need to be addressed, and I don't find any better way than this to really highlight these issues and make sure that that we all start debating them, start thinking about them, and start actually working towards finding solutions and not living in the past, and start looking at the future.
Yeah, very well said. I think in the play you say, Jinnah says, creation of Pakistan for him is a hollow success. Pakistanis revere me, but they don't really understand my message of creating a modern Muslim society, human rights, women's rights, respect for Constitution. So, I mean, that the lines you've written are very poignant. You don't let anyone go, and I think the criticism is across the board for what we see in sort of modern South Asia.
The criticism of me will also be
yes,
much focused.
But I think for peace you need to be brave.
Yes. We got Gandhi and Jinnah with us.
Yes.
Manjula leading us, so inshallah we'll face them.
Before we open it up to questions from the audience, Manjula, I want to turn to you. You know, how do you see, this is, play, and I've seen in India and Pakistan great plays, especially in times of oppression where they are critiquing the powers that be, whether it's during Zia ul-Haq's regime, whether it was in other regimes in India in the 80s, their plays and poetry, and song have been used to criticize. How do you see art, plays, and similar forms of expression can be used to push peace forward? Right now, we have sort of a logjam. People in power are not necessarily moving forward. But can citizenry, through art, be activated?
That's what I deal with all the time, think about in creating. The arts are creative. And so when there are strong messages to convey, and it's not a history lesson, it's not a book on politics, it's not. So the arts inform. Now, when we're dealing with such an intense, complex, controversial issue that the play is about, there has to be relief. And that's what I've tried to do through collage. The screen for our play is almost another actor. So a lot of people during our rehearsal said, you have to help people understand what's going on. You have to, but you can't, overfeed as well. So that becomes the creative process, from how you select, how you put, the actors have to be so precise. And that's been a very conscious style for my display. We have Nazm by Faiz Ahmed Faiz right in the middle. And he is talking about that dawn that we hoped for, that dawn that we died for. Where is it? One day. So that takes the audience at another level of understanding, of feeling, right in the middle of, and we've got very intense dialogue. What's most impressive, and again, I've had this feedback from so many people, Dr. Ahmed has has handled a very difficult theme, but kept the balance amazing. There is nobody that has read or seen that can see any tilt anywhere. And so not just the Hindus, Muslims, Pakistan, but constantly, the Sikhs and the Christians and the Jews, there's a dialogue about the nuns are being, and yet it's poignant. It's not hitting out. It's not abrasive. In fact, I keep thinking, there's no bad language in the play. There is no violence. We talk about violence, but there is no violence on the stage. So I think bringing so many aspects of poetry, and we have live music, and we have artwork over there, makes it more palatable, I think, and it reaches a very diverse audience. We don't know who's coming, at what level of information they are. So we've got to give a lot, but not overfeed, and yet you want to engage a very mixed audience. So here's our effort, and I'm sure we'll do it.
Yeah, thank you. I do want to open it up to our in-person audience. We have runners here with microphones, so if you have a question, please raise your hand. Please do identify yourself and your affiliation, and we can start. There's a question right here.
Good afternoon. My name is Azmat Nasir. I'm with the U.S. federal government. So I think the timing and the theme of your play is just impeccable. With the current events going on and what we've seen in the past with the South Asian culture, I mean, the theme so much resonates with what's going on. Although, we're looking at the vision that Dr. Ahmed has put into it with the amazing skill set from Manjula Kumar, I mean, this could be a very big potential for silver screen. I mean, people could benefit out of the theme, not only at the Washington, D.C. level, but across the subcontinent, but across the world too. So my question to Dr. Ahmed, as well as, or jointly to Manjula Kumar, is, has there been any consideration for this to be taken more broadly so people across the globe can benefit from such a timely and peaceful message, which has been embodied across the board from a South Asian perspective, but also what is currently going on in the culture and in the world current events right now? So I know it's a pretty loaded question in two different parts, but I'm happy to repeat if needed, but
Thank you very much.
Sure.
It's an excellent suggestion, and I know that Manjula is already thinking of filming it, and hopefully then it'll be available. But ideally, I agree with you if somehow, and this is my dream, maybe I can't do it, but people will have to do it. Manjula will have to once again show the lead. If it can be taken to Pakistan, taken to India, taken to Southeast Asia, so people see this, engage with. We don't expect to convert everyone. We don't expect everyone to say whatever you said is right. But we expect people to see the sincerity of the play. There's an integrity there. That there's a plea, that all of us are making that plea, the plea for peace. And we are saying that we will not expect you to agree with us. We will expect you to dialogue, to debate, to discuss, and hopefully leave the theatre with something a bit more positive, a bit more hopeful, and maybe move this needle a little bit. And that will be sufficient for. So Manjula, please think of taking it out there.
Of course, finance is always a problem. So I think we have like 6 performances here in the Washington, D.C. area. And again, as I said, we don't know, we cannot predict the audience that we will have, but I'm hoping, or I will say, predicting, that it'll be a very mixed audience. So we're going to reach out to some people who have no idea of the historical, the geopolitical background, and will see it with an open mind. So what do they take away? What are we trying to see from where we were, where we are, and where we are going? But I'd be happy, I'd be pleased if some people who already come with a baggage or who have their own set ideas about, no, this happened, no, this doesn't happen, this is not right, and this is not that. So they rethink. You know, one of the beautiful dialogue, is saying we want people to look at it with fresh eyes. I want to open minds and stir, conversation, debate. I don't think this is really controversial, but if it is, be it. Let it start. And that to me would be, and we are hoping, this is my 3rd play with Dr. Ahmed. We did Dara Shiko Now Noor was based on the whole question of terrorists and how, and we've shown that film in universities. This will have a much greater appeal. You can't just take a play or say, come watch it. It has to have an interest. It has to have an appeal to people. But I can say that already there is an interest to bring it across the Wagah border. So, and universities here, they definitely need it, and organizations. So I think there's a future beyond the 6 performances that we have through November.
So the only very quick thing that I would add is that I see no hair on my head for a very long time.
Please, I think we have a question right here.
Hi, my name is Contessa Bourbon. Thank you for this very interesting forum. I'd like to ask, how would you describe the dialogues and the acting of the actors that should entice or engage the audience? What are the challenges in directing such diverse actors?
What are the challenges in, let me repeat the question. I think, what are the challenges in directing such diverse actors, and maybe if some of the dialogue that should entice. And having read the play, I have to say there are some the dialogue is very piercing, and it is very spot on. They don't shy away from controversy, so I would definitely ask you to, they talk about everything from denuclearization, casteism, religious intolerance, Kashmir, the multi-crisis of Pakistan, the treatment of Muslims in India. There's there are minorities in Pakistan, even the personal differences of Jinnah, Gandhi, Churchill. If I might actually build on that question, you also don't shy away from modern criticism of Jinnah and Gandhi, right? Yeah. Both in their countries and worldwide, whether it's about race, gender. If you want to talk about any of those, please.
So really the challenge to get, again, as I said, a script to the stage is how can you convince a public, an audience of what, and there are these three iconic men in history. We start with Churchill, an American who's playing, everybody knows about Churchill, what he looked like, how he spoke. So he's been working very hard on learning an English accent, British accent, and terminology, which you've given us. And then we have Jinnah and Gandhi, because everybody knows what they look like. So I was so fortunate I got these people who half the word was, but their mannerisms, and also it is, no, he didn't smoke the cigar like this, he didn't dress like this. And then you have, we have a character nobody knows about, but what she would be wearing, how would she behave. So then you have I call it my kit, the drama kit, but not every actor picks up all those enunciation, pronunciation, projection. So what you have in your mind as a director, producer, may not be the final product on the stage, because you've had to compromise in many places, many issues and areas. It's a constant work.
If I might ask the actor, Soumya, why don't we start with you? What do you think the biggest challenge was, taking, the written dialogue and bringing it alive on stage?
Yeah, in fact, I was going to add something to what Manjula ji said, because this is my debut performance. I've done theater in school, but I have not done it as an adult. And the story how this came to be is also really interesting. Manjula ji and I were just met up for lunch, and we had some really heated conversations about my background and where she came from and all of that. And the next thing I know is she calls me saying, "You'll be perfect for this role that I have on this play. Would you like to come and join us? Would be great." And so I was a little hesitant at first, and because my background is more in music and recording and piano and those aspects. But I know she knows how to bring that out in me. And she always says, I think I have more of she always says, don't smile. Because I have a tendency to smile, because that's how my personality is.
So she does the smiling role, part of her role, better.
And singing. So she really, I'm happy in a way that I get to do that, the smiling and the singing, which are my strengths, that, she's been generous enough to let me do that. But also coach me and guide me in a way that I'm able to deliver the requirements of what Meena Kumari as a journalist, as someone who stands for facts and truth, would also be doing. So it's a great opportunity, and I'm very, very fortunate to be working with you.
Wonderful. Farhan or Shri,
I can add. So I, about the dialogues and stuff, I also do a charity event every year. So my last charity event that we did, I had to give a little speech. And after the speech, one of my friends comes, and he has no idea about this play, and he's like, "Farhan, why are you talking like Jinnah?" So it's like we really
into your life.
So it's like we really have to kind of live this character right now, and we think about it and dream it'll and all that. So it'll
take you a long time to come out of the character, but it will never leave you.
It doesn't look like it will.
For me, I think I've done a lot of theater, but this one character has been not a challenge as such, but I think it's a very, very humbling experience for me. And initially, I was in India when Manjula ji contacted me. And at that time, looking at the title, having not read the entire script completely, I was a little skeptical. I was a little skeptical to say, okay, what... And I've worked with Manjula ji before. I've worked on Noor, Dr. Ahmed's another play. And,
as a terrorist.
Yeah, I was a terrorist there. And look at this, from a terrorist to Gandhi. But I was skeptical to not present Gandhiji in a negative light. Again, you have your own thoughts about this whole thing to say, he's bringing Gandhi and Jinnah back, and he's going to talk about partition, he's going to talk about current day, what's going on, how critical is he going to be, and how balanced will he be in terms of both these characters. And for Indians, I think, Gandhi is what he is, and for Pakistanis, Jinnah is what he is. And we revere these characters from history and what they've done for these two countries. And so I was very, very skeptical, but very pleasantly surprised that I think Dr. Ahmed has done full justice to making sure that, both are very balanced and both are given the stage time, given the, platform to be able to share their thoughts as far as history is concerned, and not necessarily distorting anything from history the way things happen, but also bring them into the present and take them into the future to say you both are now, nuclear states. And what does that mean? It's a very, very heavy responsibility, I think, that you place on the character. And that is something that I keep struggling with, to say, what is the message that this man is giving? And he's given the message that people know about. But now this is a completely new Gandhi. A new Gandhi who's talking about nuclear, he's talking about peace, he's been doing that all this time, but now it's so much more relevant. The character by itself is so much more relevant. So it's very, very interesting, fascinating for me to explore this character, to keep, peeling out the different layers of this onion to say, what is it that, he is all about today? Vis-a-vis what's going on in the world. Peace, fighting, violence, intolerance, women's issues, so many different things that the play addresses. So I think in that context, it's extremely important to, keep breaking down that character for me.
Thank you very much.
Can I just...
We're actually a little bit past time, so I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm so sorry, Manjula, but I'm going to actually turn either of you, I think Dr. Ahmed just is going to give the last word as we're a little over time, but I want to thank the audience for joining us today. Please.
Dr. Tamanna, just to thank you, thank USIP, and I want to bring on record my appreciation of Manjula Kumar and a brilliant cast, some of who you met this evening. This play could not have been staged without Manjula. Her commitment, her passion, and her compassion, to me, she is the true bridge between India and Pakistan and between the communities. And I want to acknowledge her daughter, Aisha, and her late beloved husband, who I know is looking down at us with great beneficence. She takes inspiration from him. And I would like to thank the cast and the better halves of the cast. I know all of them, their wives and their husbands are with them, supporting them. And I know when Farhan had his haircut, I'm sure he cleared it with Maham first.
She gave him the haircut. So
Yes, thank you all so much. I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Ahmed and Manjula Kumar for putting this play out into the world. I hope you all can see it this weekend at American University. There are flyers out there, and we really hope your dream for peace and tolerance on the subcontinent and between Indians and Pakistanis can come to life. Thank you all for joining us here today and online. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.